the bank, all those will be forgotten. But very few will forget the courage he brought to his life and to living and to telling the truth. The second issue was as it relates to the deprivation that these would, of course, deepen in the middle belt. I'm of the opinion that the middle belt simply has to find its voice. For long, it has been complicit to a very large extent in the mess that Nigeria has been, just as every other part. But this is not the forum, and we might not have sufficient time to deal with the issue of that complicity. But it is actually time that other people find their voice and speak out the way Melafia was speaking. The third thing was as it relates to Nigerian unity, and how I had spoken in the past to the unity of Nigeria. I remain unrepentant in my belief that we are all better off together. But being better off together, I'm not speaking to being better off within this unjust, inequitous, inequitable system in which we are currently lost. If we must be together, it must be on mutually agreed terms. Terms to be dictated by one person or one group cannot work. It has to be a function of a synergy, agreements between the divergent sections of what makes up Nigeria, and an insistence on equity governing our affairs and everybody being subjected to the law. If we can do that, Nigeria will be a beautiful place to live in, and its unity can be deepened. But it cannot be deepened without justice, and it cannot be deepened without equity. And those two are nowhere to be found in current Nigeria. So I hope that clears up whatever opening statement I might want to throw down. We can take it from there, sis.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Dele. So basically today, guys, so we're just talking about the state of the nation called Nigeria. You're welcome to come on stage and ask Mr. Dele whatever questions you have. Insofar as nobody's interjecting, you can use the back channel, send your questions to any of the moderators. Don't forget to follow the club if you're not following the club. Does any of the moderators have a question? I have a question, but let me see if any of the moderators want to go. Damilola, Awal, Are, Olabode. Okay, let me open this up by asking my question, Mr. Dele. So what I get from you is that you still believe that we can exist together because obviously we are stronger in our numbers, but you believe that we need to restructure the system. My question would then be, how practical do you think this is? Because if you look at the fact that some people benefit from the current structure, do you think that they will be willing to come back to the table, let us dialogue, and let us have a different type of structure? I don't see that happening, but I would like you, if you see it, I would like you to shed a bit more light and explain to us what you see that we don't see, because some of us don't see it.
Mr. Dele, before you go, Tolani, sorry, Mr. Dele, before you go, Honorable Yampa is in the building, and I think it would be a good time for him to come up on stage. This is why. Honorable Yampa is a member of the House of Representatives, and I don't think there's any better time to engage people than when you have someone like Dele Farotimi on the stage. So this is an open invitation to Honorable Yampa to come and discuss. You know, at this time, we should be hearing more from you on Clubhouse, especially as you are one of the few who understands the workings of Clubhouse very much. You've been on Clubhouse for a long time. So, Honorable Yampa, I ask that you join the stage and be active in this conversation. It would be nice to talk about Nigeria as it is and as it should be, you know, and it would be also nice to engage people like Dele Farotimi, if you like. Thank you. Please go ahead, Mr. Dele. Mr. Dele, please go ahead.
Yeah, I get you. I believe it was Tolani that was asking the question. So let me just deal with it like this. When you look at Nigeria the way it is, it does not fill anyone with anything but trepidation. It's almost impossible to be optimistic about the future. And I dare say that the rulers of Nigeria actually prefer that we despair about Nigeria. Because in despairing about Nigeria, what we then do is that you have an entire generation that should be challenging the norm, breaking this chain that is entirely focused on escaping from Nigeria instead of being focused on rescuing the country from its misrulers. So it is beneficial to the system that despair is embraced in place of hope. What hope does is that it feeds rebellion. It feeds a refusal to accept the status quo. So that narrative that says that, do you think it's not better if we just broke it up? In fact, everything, the reality suggests that we are all better off breaking it up until you then take a step back. The Igbos have this proverb that I think is very germane and pertinent to our situation. And that proverb says that when you find a goat that is dead inside a yam barn, you should know that it is not hunger that killed that goat. It didn't die of hunger. That is the Nigerian situation. We are having famine in the midst of plenty. We have turned what is essentially paradise into hell. And the reason it has become hell is not far-fetched. It is because the closer you enter into Nigeria, the further you walk away from equity and justice. The law does not rule in our land. It is the will of evil men that rules in Nigeria, north, west, east, and south. That is why you find that there is synergy in the ruling class. They are not divided. It is we who are outside of the ruling class, and even members of the ruling class who are falling out of favor until they go and eat their vomit, like Femi Falana and Femi Fanika, they just did. That is when that class becomes subject to the injustice that is endemic in our own lives. So what you find is that the system prefers that we are, one, despairing about the future of Nigeria, two, that we are focused on breaking it up as though breaking it up will be the solution to our problems. If you look to the north, to the east, to the west, and to the south, you will find that it has only been members of those tribes that have ruled within those places. The destruction of Yoruba land has not been left to the Fulani man. The destruction of Ala Igbo has not been left to the Fulani man. The South and the Niger Delta has not been destroyed by Mohammed. He's taking an Amechi and the others to destroy that place. So when you look beyond the rhetorics, you find very quickly that yes, the overarching Fulanist Islamist agenda that has built the federal government of Nigeria and shaped the governance system since 1966 has assured that we have evolved a system that is more of a feudal system that allows each one of these entities to govern their own states and regions as though they are emirs and they are accountable to the president, who is essentially a sultan. So Nigeria is a place where your rights as citizens do not matter. So when you are now demanding to break it, what you are actually saying is that if I cannot have citizenship in Nigeria, I should be able to have it within Oodua Republic. I should be able to have it within Biafra. Those are the sentiments that are guiding that we will deal with those miscreants that are representing the Fulani amongst us when we have broken it into those smaller pieces. What we tend to forget is that the dynamic that has assured that these evil forces are the ones ruling in the different regions, even though they tell you that they are not the same, they are all the same. And even if you broke down Nigeria, what you would have done is that you will localize the problem. But let me give you an example. Break down Nigeria into, take Yoruba land, for instance, which is probably the most homogeneous of the several homelands locked into Nigeria. The dominant power in any Oodua republic will be the Tinubu hegemony. They are the ones with the money. They are the ones with the guns. They control all the gangs, the NURTW, the courts. So even their will be easier to enforce within that tribal enclave. I am saying that, look, yes, we have structural imbalances systemic inequities and injustices in Nigeria, but these are easier to fight on a national level if we find the grace to understand the commonalities of our problems and we act in concert. It is not possible that all 6 zones, if you break Nigeria into the accepted 6 geopolitical zones, not all 6 zones will be aligned to the same agenda. But if you took a poll of the Nigerian people today, I am almost 100% certain that 4 out of the 6 geopolitical zones in Nigeria would accept a restructure of Nigeria. But the current political class does not gain anything from a restructure of Nigeria, because restructuring Nigeria along the lines being desired by those of us having this conversation is actually a roundabout way of demanding for the recognition of our citizenship, so that our votes begin to count in the governance system and we then truly have a democracy. The ruling class does not want that. The ruling class wants to reform the system and restructure it in a way that makes it easier for them to hold the levers of power, control the resources, and extract our value and continue to loot as they currently loot. So if we allow them to shape the narrative as it relates to what we want, what we would have is that we'll be distracted demanding secession. They will be focused on the restructuring they want, and then you would have the villains recasting themselves as the heroes. That is the importance of forums such as the one we are having. Nigerians are better off working together as one, demanding a reversal of the insanity we are living with, rather than breaking it up, because you will not find, at the end of the day, will not happen. The most active secessionist group in Nigeria today is IPOB. They've gone beyond the scope of rhetorics. But the Nigerian state is always happy to treat those demanding self-determination as the terrorists, whilst embracing the true terrorists. Even if it was a Yoruba man in the presidency today, he wouldn't have been any less brutal with the separatists. If he was an Igbo man sat in that place, he would not have been any less brutal with them. Let's just understand that. What the ruling class is desiring is much different from what we want. But we need to correctly identify what it is we seek, or else we would end up being sold another fraud. This monkey that we have in government today, it was sold to all of you in 2014, 2015, has changed.
Oh my
They
God.
sold you change. 30 years he was out of power. He did not write a single book. He did not attend a single class. And they sold him to you as change. That is the capacity of the ruling class to market, and they are already marketing. Wike almost rode on the back of the VAT thing to market himself to all of you as the hero of southern Nigeria, fighting the caliphate on all of your behalf. It's a bloody lie. Don't kid yourselves. Let me leave it there so that I don't monopolize the platform. Thank you.
Sorry.
Hold on, Daniel.
Hello?
Daniel,
Hold
don't
on,
do that.
Daniel. Tolani is in charge. She'll take charge of it, please. Don't interject. Thank you. Tolani, please.
Okay. Thank you for that, Mr. Dele. FBI, do you want to ask a question? Okay, Laulu.
Should I go ahead?
Okay,
Please, Laulu.
no. Laulu, hold on a second. Guys, please do not unmute your mic unless you're called. The session is being live streamed. If you do not consent to your voice being live streamed, please do not come on stage. And if you come on stage, please keep your mic muted until you're called, just so that we can all enjoy the conversation and it can be civil. Laulu, please ask your question.
Yes, thank you very much, Tolani. Yes, Mr. Dele, with all due respect, I will not spill too much emotion, but until the shoe pinches you, you won't be expressing yourself the way we are expressing ourselves on this platform when we come together and discuss solution. Most of our discussion for the last 2, 3 months, 4 months, especially with the escalation of violence against the agitators and all that, or those people who engage in self-determination, A lot of people in diasporas, they are committed emotionally and all that. Let me not go ahead with too much speech and all that. Let me go to my question. About a week ago, you blocked me on Twitter because I asked a very pertinent question. I was surprised. My question was, if you are directly affected, your family, in the villages, in the hinterland, what would be your reaction? Will you still say the same thing you are saying this morning to us? Because right now, I feel insulted, extremely
Okay,
insulted.
Lalu,
If I'm in a
Lalu,
marriage,
let's not
this is
make
my
this.
question. This is my
Lalu,
question.
1 minute.
This is my
please.
question. Okay, let me take a step back. Let me ask the question.
Exactly. Don't make it personal. You're not the only one on
It's not
stage right
personal.
now.
No,
It's not
it is
personal.
important for me that he be allowed to finish what he's saying because I intend to answer him.
Okay,
Please.
that's fine.
I'm not offended by anything he has said so far. And I would
Apparently, you
prefer that
were
he
because you
finishes.
blocked me.
Please finish your question. I will answer you when you're done.
I said, if you were affected directly, which I don't pray, I don't even pray for my worst enemy to be affected by the marginalization and the violence, the new large-scale violence perpetuated by those in power. Those that have the state power now supporting, we've seen it all because we are well educated. We know history because history is the most important education. So the reason we are asking all these questions is because we have a level of knowledge that is more than average Nigerian. I would say that. So we've had that story before in Sudan and all that. When the people in power are empowering and giving weapons to non-state actors to go into the villages and in large-scale level the village, kill people, then the people in the capital can deny to the whole world, oh, we're not involved at all. For 20 years and longer, they've been doing this. And those people now are in power in Sudan today. The same thing is happening like a horror movie right before our eyes in Nigeria. We believe that the best way is for us to go our separate way. So a stitch in time saves 9. I don't want to be a refugee like my friends in Windsor who came from Sudan. No, I want to live in Yoruba land. What will you do if you are affected? I said, what will you do if you are personally affected by this Fulani marginalization? That's
May
what.
I
That's
respond now? May I
yes, sir.
respond now?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And I will appreciate if you can unblock me on Twitter.
I will not unblock you on Twitter, and I would explain
That's
myself.
the sarcasm. That's
I treat
sarcasm.
my. No, let me finish now. Let me finish, okay? I
Beg
treat
of you.
my social media space more as I would treat my sitting room. I treat my space with respect. I respect each and every person I come into contact with. If I come into contact with you on social media, I'll treat you exactly as I would have treated you if you were stood in front of me. If I blocked you, it would be because you were rude. I am not a rude person. I can be hard in responding, but I am never rude to anyone and I do not accept disrespect. I respect myself before I can respect anyone else. And when you cross that line with me, I will block you. I have no apologies for it. I am almost 110% certain that you must have been rude. Even the way you were asking your question just now suggests that you're a rather impatient person who does not really brook opposition to your views. Now, let me explain myself and answer the question you have asked because you did ask a question. If I was directly affected, I am directly affected, by far more affected than you. I have farms in Ijebugo adjoining the J. I planted my cocoa plantation when my daughter, who is now 18, was just born. So I have like 3 cocoa plantations in that place that I planted with my sweat. I can't go there again because of the activities of Fulani herdsmen in the forest. So I am directly affected. Let's first of all understand that. The second thing is this: I live in Nigeria. I do not own a foreign account. My children are all Nigeria. My sweat and substance are in Nigeria. I am invested in Nigeria. I will live and die in Nigeria. Whether it is called by another name, whether it is broken up eventually, I will live and die here. I am invested here. When people talk about breaking up Nigeria, and it is time that this be addressed comprehensively once and for all, however intelligent those of you who have cared to struggle for Nigeria might think you are, understand this. 25 years ago, I was raising the same arguments the separatists were raising. It was at the peak of their Abacha madness. But the reality is that the elites will prefer that you focused on breaking it up instead of chasing them out. It is the evil elite that is destroying Nigeria however and wherever you turn. Now, when you speak of breaking it up, when you speak of demanding our homeland, the question is this: by what mechanism? The Nigerian constitution, that fraudulent 1999 constitution, does not have a provision for referendum. When you guys would answer in your brilliance, you talk about the United Nations coming to have a referendum for us. How many countries of the world are the United Nations going to conduct referendum in the absence of a war having happened first? That war, who will be fighting it? On whose backyard? In whose backyard will it be fought? Who will go and tell the mother that the sons have been killed at the war front? Who, when they are shooting, that CNN thing that you are watching going on in Afghanistan, where do you think is happening? That is somebody's home. What you need to understand is that the Nigerian ruling class would prefer that we are busy fighting that war of separation so that they can get away with the stealings. It is important that we do not make the error that they are urging us into making. And this is the error. Let me show you. Not divide.
Is it
Which
me
it
or
is in
we've
some
lost
ways.
Mr. Dele?
Which it is in some ways.
Okay, Mr. Dele, can you circle back like 30 seconds? We lost you for a bit.
His network is
Nigerian the common patrimony of all. Hello?
Mr. Dele, we lost you for like 40 seconds now. Can you circle back? You said,
Okay.
let me
Can you
show
hear me now?
and then we didn't hear you
anymore. I was saying, okay, let me go back to that. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Please go ahead.
Okay. I was explaining that the ruling class would prefer that we are focused on separatist agitations. When we are focused on separatist agitations, which the objective reality shows clearly cannot work, because what will happen is this: the largest separatist war that has ever been fought in Nigeria was the Civil War. As at that time, there was only one front. It was Ndi against the rest of Nigeria, or the rest of Nigeria against Ndi. So it was easier to preserve. Right now, if any such war breaks out, what you will find is that the Nigerian state, which is already incapable of governing its own state, which has collapsed to a very large extent and is a failing state, you will then have an hastening of the collapse. It would implode within itself. So what you then find is that it will support whatever entity emerges stronger within that space. Whether that can, which is what you already have disguised in northern Nigeria, or whether that is some extreme, as long as it can preserve law and order, sufficient to ensure that there is no refugee problem for the West to contend with, they are happy to tolerate it. The Taliban is back in place in Afghanistan today. That should show you the extent of the willingness of the West to tolerate evil. They are back. 20 years after they were chased out, they are back. The Taliban is already poised to take over Nigeria. You have Taliban in the Nigerian government already, and they are already taking fascist measures. What you will find is that the so-called Fulani terror and the Fulani headsmen, quote and unquote, who are actually terrorists with expansionist ambition, would be enabled in that chaos. So to answer your question, so that we don't keep dragging this thing emotionally, I have zero problem with devolution structuring Nigeria. Ninas, the one led by Tony Nadi, and all those who are calling every day for the restructuring of Nigeria, I support everything they do. The one thing I will not support is a blight demand that you break up Nigeria. Question is how? The only way I see that happening in the scenario that you separatists are constantly painting, the only way it happens is after a civil war. That civil war will not be fought somewhere else. It will be fought on our own doorsteps. You guys are mostly abroad. You are sat in the comfort of your homes abroad watching CNN. And the reality is that that war being fought on CNN will be fought on our own doorstep.
Tolani, I'm sorry. Would there be any kind of rebuttal?
Olalu, do not unmute your mic, otherwise I'll
The
have
same
to
thing
move
we
you
are
down.
demanding.
Maybe
No,
I
you
should
can't-
leave. Maybe
For
I
this,
should
we
leave
can't
the room. I feel insulted by this.
Mr. Dele, I'm so sorry for that. Please go ahead.
It is well. Since the gentleman has gone, he's not the only one here, but let me just say
Oh
this.
no, please continue. A lot of people are learning from this. I also have the same question,
For
even
the
though I do
benefit-
not feel.
For the benefit of
Yes,
those.
yes, please.
No, I should conclude the thought so that at least if other people are going to be asking questions, let's understand the context. I have zero problem with the right to self-determination being expressed to demand a homeland. If we have self-determination in the Constitution and the people who have now become citizens in a referendum demand that Oduduwa Republic be one of those voting if such a right is enshrined in the Constitution. But as of today, in the absence of such a right being in the Constitution, because we don't have one, the only other scenario is war. And that war will not be winnable, and it will be ruining us. And I see no sense in it. So I'm not against self-determination. I'm simply saying we need the right to citizenship and then demand the homeland if you still want one. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for that. I think I would like to ask a follow-up question, but I also want to give other people an opportunity to ask their own question. FBI, do you want to go?
Yeah, I want to just ask him a few questions.
Okay.
Mr. Dele, welcome. Thank you very much for your brilliant submission. But I want to ask you something. Do you think that this what you're talking about? Because we can see that people are being killed right in their own house, in their own homes. And if you Google return 54 villages back to the Plateau indigens, people who have been killed and chased out of their house, is that not war? And lastly, according to our history as Yorubas, if not for Ibadan, do you think that me and you we have what we have, Yoruba nation today? Because if not for them, do you think we don't have Emir of Ibadan or Emir of Oyo or Emir of Lagos, all our land, just like what our people are facing in Ilorin today? If you can answer that fact, then I will believe what you're saying. Thank
In the first place, I lost the bulk of the beginning of your question, but by the time you get into the end, I realized that we're having the wrong argument. So, and I would explain myself. Number one, I am not defending the Nigerian status quo. So don't put me in a box where you have me defending the madness that is called Nigeria. That has never been my intention. So don't make me the spokesperson for those demanding that those saying that Nigeria is not negotiable. Nigeria is negotiable. So don't ask me questions related to whether it's negotiable or not. All I am saying is that if you are demanding Odua Republic or Biafra, you are asking me to come along as well. So in asking me to come along, it's not sufficient to tell me that that is the solution to the problem, because I simply don't believe it is. If we are actually going to be having one, and it's a democratic choice, we'll still have to vote for one, wouldn't we? So if we don't have the right to conduct such an election, who is anyone to force me to accept a position I do not believe is acceptable to me? If it's a democratic choice, so let's be clear about one thing. I am not saying Nigeria is working as it is. I am simply saying that there is another way, different from a demand for what you cannot get, in the absence of joining the madness of the ongoing war. There is evidently war going on in Nigeria. I'm not denying that. So don't make it seem as if I am defending the indefensible. I am not. If I was, I would not be speaking the way I'm speaking. Look, for saying the things I'm saying that you disagree with so vehemently, my life has been under constant threat. If it wasn't for the fact that God deliberately leads their plans to me, I'll probably be dead already for saying these things you are disagreeing with. I am saying to you that as insane as our situation is, and it is insane, the most stupid thing we could do in the circumstances is to focus on
Okay, Mr. Dele, we've lost you again.
the unanimity.
We've lost you, Mr. Dele. I think we should give you a bit of time to fix your network. Okay, in the meantime, Omojeje, do you want to ask a question?
Is it back?
So that you can have a unanimity.
Should I go ahead or wait?
Omojeje, please go ahead and ask your question. Mr. Dele, I think you're having network issues. I think we should give you some time to fix that.
It would have to be fought by Nigerians. So how they want to go about doing it.
Okay, yeah. Okay. My question is to something he said.
Omojeje, hold on a second. Mr. Dele, can you hear me? I think maybe you should leave the room and okay, don't worry, Omojeje, just give me a second, please.
I found that I was lost for a bit there.
Yes, we're struggling to follow you. Your network has been really bad. I don't know, maybe you want to fix that, maybe leave the room and come back, or get an alternative network. Yes, we've been struggling to hear you.
Okay, maybe what I'll do is, I'll come off my Wi-Fi completely, and then let's see how.
Okay, please do. Okay, are we back?
I believe so.
Okay, let's go.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. I just wasn't sure because of the patchy way the network has been working all day. Anyway, all I was just pointing out is that I have nothing against those demanding homelands. I once made the same demands myself. All I'm asking is, make your case. It's about you putting your vision across. For me, when you are just, if all you are saying is, let's have Odua land, let's have Biafra, how? Until you lay down the vision of how, You are just reacting instead of responding. We must move beyond the reactions. How? That's what I'm asking. I'm not saying don't do it, but how? Don't come into a fight without explaining how you expect to win it.
All right. Thank you for that, Mr. Dele. Omojeje, ask your question, please.
Yeah, my questions is to something you said, that Nigeria is a war zone. And my question is, Nigeria is a war zone. We are not meant to respond. So how do we survive? Because, for example, now we are all currently waiting for the next election 2023. So between now and 2023, how do we survive this war zone? Do we keep looking until the same individuals come and kill us, or do we just keep looking, or are we meant to do something? Like, how do we survive in this war zone we are in? That's my question.
Thank you very much. There are different types of wars that are fought in this life that we've come into. The Nigerian war is peculiar. The war is actually won between members of the ruling class. It's been an ongoing war, and it's entering its denouement now. But as it is entering its denouement, a new war is starting. Now, it is up to us to intelligently shape the character of that war. Just as the Nigerian ruling class shaped the character of the change in 2014, 2015, they shaped the character of that war. They made it, we didn't interrogate the change. We wanted change as well. We were tired of what was going on. A lot of Nigerians wanted change, but they did not interrogate the character of the change they were buying into. So they bought a fraud. Now, we are entering a new phase. Nigerians are now clear. They can see clearly that nothing has changed. In spite of the advertised change, nothing has changed. What is happening is that the ruling class has become one, evidently one. That process will be completed when you see someone like Jonathan cross into APC. Then you will realize that Nigeria is entering a one-party state system. I am not unmindful of the war that you have referred to that is ongoing. I concede there is an ongoing war, but that war was never a war between the people. The people were merely agents being used by those jostling for powers. That war has masqueraded as being ethnic and sometimes has been religious. That is because there are actually real ethnic problems of ethnicities in Nigeria being exploited and promoted by the ruling class. They work together, they intermarry, they run businesses together, they share power together, they steal together, they protect each other. But we are told who our enemies are by our real enemies. You find people killing each other in the plateau, in places where you find expression for extremism, where Boko Haram is working, and then Muslims and Christians. You find all these divisions exploited by the ruling class to keep the people busy. But now that they have finished their wars, they are finishing their wars now. We need to understand that. I'm not saying sit down and become victims. No, I am saying understand the real war that you need to be fighting, not the one they're asking you to fight. And what is the real war you need to be fighting? First thing first, 2023 is an assumption. We are not even sure if at the rate we are going to enter 2023 in one piece. Whether there will be sufficient peace in the country to even run an election, a credible election, which we have rarely ever run, even in peacetime. But we cannot, in that despair, then say that the only thing that is open to us is to, even if we are taking up arms in response to the war that we both agree is going on, who are we fighting? If it is about protecting my homeland, I believe that that is the inalienable right of every human being to protect his own space. I am all for that. So I'm not speaking against that. But I am saying that if we are even organizing in terms of fighting the war that is going on, if you bring the war to you, you must respond. But in terms of the overall strategy, it has to be that one, whenever the system has been long prepared for this and we prefer that we are fighting one. I don't know if they would ever open voters registration, but if it is ever open, there must be a concerted effort by all to join that process. I know that there are ongoing discussions in the political space, not the conventional politicians. I know that younger elements, they're talking amongst themselves. And the last time I spoke with them, which was very recently, one of the things we explained to ourselves was this. If you must make any impact in this game, you have to change. You can't change this, their game. They play by their rules, but you can't play by that rule. The people want in this moment so that they are connected. No election in Nigeria has had up to 30 million voters in the general election. And yet, without a population of over 200 million, I am not sure how many people have registered to vote, but I'll be sure if we have anything less than about 70 or so 8 million who are registered. How come it's only this little portion that comes out to vote? Because the people are not connected to any purpose. You've not called them to any purpose. Whether it's PPP, whatever name you call the political party, as long as it is operating within this system and it is not offering the people an alternative to which they can key, which then makes them invested in the process sufficiently to defend their votes, it will not work. The system will continue to perpetuate itself. I am aware that there are ongoing discussions. I am not a politician, but I am also cognizant of the fact that at some point, we would have to find some engagement to break this system from its current trajectories. But it is not war. There are political ideas in the pipeline, but it's certainly not about war. Wars will not solve our problems. Embracing the violence that is being brought to us will equally not solve our problems. We have to think our way out of this. We can't shoot our way out of it.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Dele. Because time is fast spent, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take maybe 2 or 3 speakers and then you can answer everybody at a go. Is that fine?
That's fine.
Okay, but before I go to the next speaker, I just want to put a bit of context to Omojeje's question. What Omojeje is asking invariably is, between now and 2023, what do you advise that we do in view of the killings that have been going on, the insecurity issues that have been going on? So between now and then, what would be your advice to us? What should we do to protect ourselves? I know you said if they bring war to you, you give the war back to them. I don't know if you can elaborate on that.
No, let me just say this quickly. If you notice in the last year or thereabouts, almost each and every one of the southern state governors have stepped up their game when it comes to security. First, they started speaking rhetoric. The rhetorics have started translating into real action. So you are finding anti-open grazing bills being passed in all the southern states. This is because, as insignificant as our franchise and citizenship might be to them, they are realizing that there is a demand for protection, which is the first duty of the governor, even though constitutionally in Nigeria is powerless. So you find that if we continue to put pressure on the ruling class and the state itself, they have no choice because they are the ones constitutional. I can't be my own local government, I'm bringing my water, I'm bringing my electricity, I'm building my own road to get into my own home. And now, in addition to having a megad and having dog guarding my house, I now have to start adding the job of vigilante because of insecurity, because of governance failures. All that will happen in the midst of any such activity is that you continue to exacerbate the lawlessness that is already endemic. Other than for us to continue to demand that government must meet its security responsibility and properly locating the responsibility. It is not the responsibility of the individual citizen, even though we are not citizens. It is not our responsibility. And if you really think about it, consider how many guns they had inside NDA, and yet they kidnapped an officer, killed two inside the NDA. So if that will happen inside the NDA, it tells you that the entire security architecture is already compromised. The only thing we can do, other than to take proactive measures in our own individual spaces, is to continue speaking to properly allocate responsibility to whom it belongs. The protection of the lives and properties of Nigerians is the duty, the very first of the duty of the state. We can't continue to take on duties because of the faith. Yes, it would be nice to say buy guns. Where are you going? There is nothing individual citizens can do beyond to continue to demand that government to govern. There is very little we can do. Security-wise, there's little we can do.
Okay, thank you for that, Mr. Dele. Ifoma, do you want to ask a question quickly? Okay, I'm moving on to your papa.
Yes, I
ready?
am. I'm available. Sorry.
Okay,
I went to leave
please make it very short in 1 minute.
Okay. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak. Mr. Dele, I'm a huge fan of yours. I would like to ask, you said separatism is not the way forward. And I know you're strongly against the 1999 Constitution. I would like to ask, what do you suggest that we do? You don't believe in we don't believe in the electoral system that they can deliver the votes. We don't believe in and truthfully, we can't keep telling these people that we want to change the 1999 Constitution because we all know that they will not do it because it's not in their favor. So that's second one. Thirdly, as regards to the question Omojeje asked and you responded, I would like to ask, do you think governors and states demanding for their own security is a way forward? If we start that conversation, is it possible that we can cajole our governors to say, no, we don't want a national police system because of the insecurity in the country? We want to have our individual, at least on the maybe not just the army forces, but at least the minimum, the police. Is it possible that we can have our own police systems in our own states? Thank you very much.
Thank you for that. Ifoma, your papa, 1 minute, please.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Adele, like the last speaker said, I'm a huge fan of yours. I like the way you write on Facebook, just the way I like Shure, but I don't really agree with so many things you have said today. And even when I brought Shure to this platform, I also don't agree with his ideology of Pan-Africanism and the likes. However, we are free to disagree and also agree. You mentioned that going our separate ways. First of all, I want to correct the fact that some of those people who are calling for Dua Republic or Biafra, they are not secessionists. They are self-determination agitator, or what you want to call them, not secessionists. They are not using violence. There is a process which maybe you are not privy of. The NINAS is leading. There is what they call NINAS, and they are leading this process with the UN, and that is one of the how. If you want to check that out, on from Nigeria.org, you can check that. However, if you say going our separate ways is not the solution, you will agree with me that for several years, maybe starting from 1998 or is it 1999, the Afenifere, there was what they call Afenifere, there was Nadeko, who were fighting for a sovereign national conference where everybody come to the table and let's discuss our unity. Let's discuss how we want to move forward as a nation, especially after the 1994 crisis. But there have been a lot of as to that from particular section of the country. There have also been several calls for restructuring, several call for let's go back to regional system of government. That was what we agreed on in the Lancaster's house in 1958, where our leaders then they agreed on having